Hi, so this is assignment B, 1B35, and this is a proposal video. It consists of me, Jazz, Hemish, and Sherwin, which will introduce themselves when they show up. So I'll start off by saying the layout of our presentation. So first we'll say the workout or the workflow we used, which is what we did in each step of the sprint. And then we'll go into the technical side and say how we got to where we are by some of the techniques we use to make efficient code. So I'll start off now by the workflow. So I'll be talking about the start of the sprint. So initially we talked to the product owner and got his highest priority user stories. And after we got that from him, we came back and had a planning step. This includes our initial Scrum planning meeting, where we found what user stories we're going to do. We then worked out the velocity and estimated how many user stories or how many user points we could do throughout the sprint. We then broke down each of the user stories to fit into each week of the sprint and see how much we can do before the next sprint. So now I'll leave it to Hemish.
So I'm Hemish, and during the sprint we tried to have meetings every 2 days at least. This is where we coded, and we did a lot of pair programming there. This is our main time for where we coded. So we also had weekly Scrum meetings. So this involved talking about what we're doing, what's going to be happening next, and what's going to be done by the next sprint meeting. This was quite good for us because this kept us all in the loop, kept us updated on what everyone was doing. Keeping in touch. We used programs like Viber, Skype, and text. This was a good way for all of us to keep in touch with everyone, know what they're doing, or if they need help, they can use one of those programs to message the group. We used Trello and GitHub. We used them quite a lot. For Trello, it was a nice visual way of looking at it, of what user stories were going to be done, what would have to be done this sprint, what we're working on, and what was tested and what was done. So we all looked at Trello, and GitHub was a good place for everyone to post their code up, keep everyone updated on what was done, what version everyone was up to, so everyone could interact with everyone's code, and contact with the product owner. This was quite important for us. We made sure that we made good contact with him so he would know exactly what we were doing and what he wanted us to get done before the end of the sprint. And just keeping him in the loop was just general good. And I'll pass it over to Sherwin.
Hi there, I'm Sherwin, and I'll be discussing the processes that our group has conducted for the end of our sprint. So, beginning with the review, we would essentially meet up with our product owner, Jim, and we would showcase our solar program to him, and he would just give us some feedback on perhaps what he'd like or say what we could have essentially improved on. Once we've done with our review, we would then conduct a sprint reflection where we'd gather as a group and just discuss how we felt about the particular sprint that we just conducted, saying what went well, what really didn't go so well, what was quite challenging, and also we would discuss what user stories we could have improved on. Finally, we would then work on the updates where we would essentially update key documents such as the product backlog, the Gantt chart, and so on. And we would also update our Trello board just to keep everyone up to date with what processes we had to work on for the next sprint. I should just pass it on to the next person.
Yeah. So here we're talking about our technical aspects. So I'll be talking about some of our testing skills. So our first and our main one was acceptance testing. So for each of our user stories, we'll let 1 to 2 acceptance tests. That was a milestone. So we would code, so this further leads on to test-driven development. So we will write code just to make the user story hold true. So once the acceptance test was true and it worked and there wasn't bugs, we said the user story was done. So effectively, the acceptance test made us do test-driven development, which we feel was a good way to progressively code and get a product out faster. We also did automated regression testing as the product owner added to each one of the user stories countless times. So he would add on to a user story that could have been done or halfway done, and we'll have to go back and recode it and get the extra function working while keeping the previous function working. And these three things was one or more of the main reasons on how we tested it and tried to improve efficient code. So I'll give it on to the next person.
Okay, so two more techniques, so shared code and version control. Shared code, when we're sharing code, we used a lot of pair programming. This was a big technique for all of us. A lot of Jazz and Sherwin's coding was pair programming, so they would be able to check each other's coding to see if it was correct and if it's done right. So for shared code, we used GitHub quite a lot for that. So that was passing code around, updating the latest code, checking everyone else's code, and that GitHub was a good way to keep everyone updated. Version control was also similar to that was GitHub as well. So mostly me and Sherwin used GitHub because of Sherwin's computer. His laptop was used a lot with Jazz for pair programming, and for me, myself, I wasn't able to get a laptop, so a lot of my coding was done at home. This meant that for me to pass over code to Sherwin, I would need to use a lot of GitHub to pass all that code over. So I'll pass it on to Sherwin.
Alright, so for the next step we have rapid prototyping, which essentially meant that whenever we had our sprint review, we would showcase our server product to Jim to just discuss basically what we've done so far and also what we could have improved on, essentially. And finally, for the software and hardware tools that we use to develop Server, we made use of the main program, which is the NetBeans IDE, which consisted of the Java embedded edition. And in conjunction with NetBeans, we also made use of the Glassfish server, which essentially meant that the local host on our internet connection would basically be able to display a web page, which is what our server program was to be used with. We'd also make use of the Java Derby or SQL database, which is essentially where we would store all the relevant articles for server onto the database there. In conjunction with the Glassfish server and the Java Derby SQL, we also made use of the Java server pages, which essentially allowed us to display HTML content in conjunction with Java code. And with that, we'd essentially get the input from the user or the client, which would then get passed on to our servlets, where we would then process the inputted data and then output all the relevant information onto another JSP page as a suitable HTTP response. Alright, so with that, we conclude our group's proposal video, and thank you for watching.